All right, it looks like we are good to go. So welcome everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for the November Tech Accelerator webinar. Our presentation topic this month is assistive technology for art. This session is being recorded, and the video will include picture-in-picture sign language interpretation, as well as a full transcript. You'll be able to access that video on our website, and I will put that link in the chat. The website is also where you can register for the next and final webinar in this series, which is on December 11th, 2025. This series is part of the Tech Accelerator program. It's an initiative funded by the Office of Developmental Programs and the Office of Long-Term Living here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's made possible through funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. The Pennsylvania Tech Accelerator project includes 5 major focus areas: training and resources to build capacity for stakeholders, readiness evaluation to develop tools for successful adoption of remote supports and assistive tech, statewide assessment to plan and benchmark a technology-first systems change, a provider survey to assess technology awareness and resources among providers, and finally, 2 technology summits, which were live events hosted in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh this past spring. You can learn more about all of these fantastic projects on our website at disabilities.temple.edu using the links I'll put in the chat shortly.
So yes, this is putting the AT in art. First of all, hi, I'm Alex. I have my master's in art therapy and counseling from Drexel, and I'm a board certified art therapist. I'm also working towards my licensure for professional counseling. This is my colleague, Colleen.
Hello, I am a recreation therapist. I went to East Stroudsburg University very, very long time ago, and I'm certified in TR recreation specialist. So I've been at Magee for 18 years in our inpatient acute rehab hospital for 6 years, something like that. And then I've been down at our outpatient facility in our day rehab program for the past 13 years.
Yeah, I've been at Magee for about like 2.5 years now. I also did my internship here when I was in school. And I spend both time here at our outpatient as well as our inpatient hospital, which brings us to kind of what art therapy and rec therapy look like at Moss Magee. Again, we have our inpatient hospital. It's much more acute. We tend to be working, more acutely towards like physical cognitive goals. And then we have our outpatient facility where people can kind of continue to get that treatment, and kind of reintegrate into the community. So a lot more focus on that community, building and kind of that transition as people return home with maybe a change in functioning or a new disability. We do individual sessions, co-treatment sessions with physical, occupational, and speech therapies. And then we do a lot of group sessions down here as well. We exist primarily to support PT, OT, and speech. And that's definitely like a part of our skill set and adapting for me, art to meet those goals. And then also, it's a great way to kind of touch on mental health and building coping skills and kind of, adapting and coping with again, a change in function. We also, again, have a really great community down here and are working on building community resources outside of Magee as well to help people kind of reintegrate into their communities and remain involved in, some of the creative arts and like recreational and leisure activities.
The other thing is our main hospital has a AT room where patients get set up with, learning about what AT is and how they can, use it in their personal life as well as their home for smart homes. A lot of their hospital rooms are set up with AT, being like voice controls to control like their lights, their shades, their TV, all of that kind of stuff. So they get really introduced to it there. Then they have an actual room where they have like a smart wall and they can learn all different types of AT stuff there. And then when they transition down to here, we have a smaller AT room where we can continue growing and exploring and then adding in, all of the different aspects that they want, whether it's going back to school, going back to home, or exploring the creative arts world.
So we'll start off with talking about some of our low-tech adaptive tools that we use. Then we'll move into some high-tech stuff, and then like art materials and specific, kind of adaptations of art processes. To start off, we have foam grip tubing, which is a great, addition to any paintbrush, pencil, marker, crochet hooks. They have they fit different size things. There are different like options, and they can be cut to size. Yeah, but they're just like a really great option to kind of build up the handle of any like tool that you might be working with. Also, all the slides, I have links to these materials. So if anybody wants to kind of explore that, they will be in the slides. Alana's gonna send those out to everybody. The next one is Dyson. It's like a rubbery non-slip mat, just to kind of help keep things from sliding. You can buy it in thinner rolls and cut it to size, or they have like thicker, like kind of coaster like squares and circles that can be used as well. As Colleen brought up in our earlier session, they're also like really reusable. They clean very easily with just like soap and water. So like any like kind of fuzz that builds up, like they, can be cleaned up to stick for forever, basically. Even paint, like you can peel off of it. Next is Coban tape. Tape in general can just come really in handy, and it's like a really simple, like low budget thing. But Coban in particular, similar to the foam tubing, can build up the thickness of whatever grading or painting utensil you're using, or whatever tool. We've even used it to like tape things to people's hands to help stabilize it if that's like, if they need a certain angle that they can't get with another device, we'll just tape it right on. Next, we have a U-cuff. So universal cuff fits most like pens, pencils, brushes, and you can tape things to it. But it has an adjustable Velcro strap that goes right over your hand into your palm. They have silicone ones that attach around your hand onto both ends of whatever utensil you're using. And then these fabric ones that your utensil would slide into like a little sleeve or like a little pocket on the inside of it. We also have wrist supports. Some have U-cuffs attached, but you can also put a U-cuff over this. And it's really similar, but just kind of gives that additional support throughout the wrist and forearm to kind of help stabilize and get as much control as possible. The next one is mouth sticks. So they're a great option for folks that don't have any arm movement, but I also find that some people that have some movement still prefer mouth sticks because they can use it with more control. So again, it kind of is like a stylus that has a screw on the end to put in your writing utensil, and then the opposite end has like a flat mouth guard that would fit right between your teeth. Another lower cost option that we've played a lot with is a plastic popsicle stick or like tongue depressor, and attaching a pen pal holder to the end of it. It's like an adhesive little like rubbery kind of holder that you can put pens and pencils into, or like, and even we'll stabilize it with some tape sometimes. I like to give people options for trying both of these because different people will have different preferences. Some people like the tongue depressor because they can use their tongue more to help control what they're doing, not just their head. And some people will prefer the mouth guard shape. They find that like it's easier on their jaw, things like that. What else? We have easels, pretty straightforward in the art world. I feel like they're a great way to prop up materials for better reach and visibility. And you know, posturally, like it's a little bit easier to, you know, so you're not leaning over what you're working on, but they usually have like a lip at the bottom that holds your paper or your easel or I'm sorry, your canvas, whatever you're working on. This one here also like holds some art materials within it. So yeah, but there's a lot of good options for those. A lap desk.
So then lap desks are good so that if you either don't have a table that's adjustable or, you know, your chair just doesn't fit under things nicely, you can put it on your lap. It's a bean bag on the one side, and then the top part is a hard plastic. It has a ledge so that whatever you're working with doesn't slide off, or you can tape it or use Dyson underneath it. It's very, very lightweight. And it has, I think, a handle so people can carry it and take it and be versatile with it out in the community as well. Especially if they're going somewhere and they need to eat or something like that. So you can use it for many, many things, not just art. The next one.
Yeah. I would say this one's good too, like if it really just needs to be that much
Closer, yeah.
than the table is. From here, we're going to move into some of our high-tech adaptive stuff. Colleen's going to lead the way here.
So with high tech, you know, most people think like it's more technology based, and it's true. The glass house is a great option if you don't have a lot of arm movement or fine motor skills. That you put the glasses on and your head acts as the mouse, so you can look side to side, up and down. You do need a little bit good cervical range of motion. If you just have slight, you can't like calibrate it on there because you need to turn all the way to the side. So there is that little, you know, downfall if you don't have great cervical range of motion. But typically we can figure something out depending on what you're using with. But there's different attachments to what people's needs are. So there's the first one is the blue foam end is a bite switch. The next one is a foot pedal. Then the pink round circular one is a press switch, but they have other ones on the website. These are the three that we typically use. There is a chin switch, there's a sip and puff, and there's one other one. I can't think of it right now. A finger switch, like a clicker, if you have like just a little bit of a digit movement. They all just click up into it. It's Bluetooth. It pairs with pretty much all devices. I've used it on a cell phone. I used it on an iPad. I've used it on a laptop, a desktop, and it's no problem. It's just Bluetooth. It has about like a 6-hour battery, I believe. It is a little tight when you first get it on the heads, as people have to kind of like, their heads have to stretch it out a little bit. But yeah, you can click, drag, scroll. You can get the keyboard put up, and then you can type stuff out. I also like to use this with people's voices if they can, so that you're using your head and your voice, so you're not individually typing out every single word. But you can, you know, you can do painting, drawing, all with it. It's a great resource. The Apple Pen, it only works with MacBooks and I believe iPads. It does not work with an iPhone. But you can easily fit it into a U-cuff. You can weave it between your fingers. You can wrap stuff with it. It's just a fine point tip, which is really nice if you're into drawing and you really want to get a defined line versus like a stylus tip, which is thicker and it's flexible. So sometimes you don't really you have to really like kind of press hard. So if you don't have like a great pressure to press, it just basically can glide on it. You don't really have to do much with it. So it's a nice aspect. The Magic Trackpad, that is an Apple product as well. It does not work with a cell phone. It's basically a square mouse pad. As you can see the patient using it with a stylus. You have to have a light touch to click it, but you also don't have to have really grandiose movements to like on the trackpad. You can be very subtle with a slight movement and then just pick up, and then your mouse will kind of just follow it. So you don't have to go really crazy movement with it. I also like it because once we start thinking of like high tech stuff, from my point of view is we really think about like posturing and like body mechanics. So if somebody's really like stretching an arm out to kind of get to the iPad screen, or their head is really looking down, and you're doing something that you enjoy doing for hours, you're going to eventually get pain in those areas. So trying to think about body mechanics and proper positioning so that you can, enjoy what you're doing for longer periods of time. So the trackpad, you don't have to look at it. All you have to do is look at your device that you're using it with ahead of you and just kind of follow the mouse and whatever you're doing. So it's Bluetooth connected as well. It's pretty small that you can kind of take it and do whatever you want with it. So that's a nice option. The Augmental Mouth Pad. It's a newer device that's out. It was originally designed for ALS patients. We met with the rep. He came down here to show us how to use it, and we got a personal trial. So basically what you do is that copper piece is your mouse pad, and you use your tongue to kind of swipe up, down, side. So your cursor will move all over to where you want, and then you kind of like tap your tongue to double click where you want to go. It's a learning curve. You can change the speed, how much pressure, like how much force you have to kind of click. You can use head gestures with it. You have to download the app onto a PC or like a laptop. You can either, as long as it has Windows 11 or it's a MacBook. And then you can, once that's downloaded and you change all your settings the way you want it to, you can use it on a cell phone. You can use it on an iPad. The retainer gets custom built to you. So once you say you want to order it, they find a local dentist in your area and they do a 3D scan of your mouth. And then it takes a few weeks, maybe about a month, for them to design it. They ship it to you, and then basically, like, mine fit perfect, but if it's like slightly off, you can dip it into like a little bit of warm water and it kind of like softens, and then just remold it. So if you ever have dental changes or something like that, as long as it's not super drastic, it should stay fit to your mouth. But yeah, the middle picture is a 3D printing box where it charges, and it lasts about, I think it's 6 to 8 hours as well, if you need to use it. But yeah, I'm still learning it, but you do have a slight little list when you're talking with it, but it's pretty minor. But your tongue's not necessarily fatigued with it. It's just a learning curve because you don't realize all the ways your tongue can do things. And, you're just like, oh crap. And you have to be like, depending on like the settings that you have, like either really precise with it. So I'm still actively learning, but they help you with it and navigate, and they have customer service. They can touch base. They're out of California, I believe. But it's great option if you don't have like arm movement or anything like that. Tobii Dynavox eye gaze. So we use these a lot at Magee if our patients have language deficits and they can't communicate as well. We can have the speech therapist will usually initiate this for the patient if they feel like their cognition is appropriate to use it, because it is training, a lot of training to know all the ins and outs, but also it's very tiring on the eye. So they have to kind of get used to and adjusted. So a rep from Tobii will come out and work with the patient, but then once they get the hang of it and they can do it, they can use just their eye movements to click on anything that you would on a computer. You can have apps downloaded. So, you can pretty much do social media, drawing, anything that you want with it. It is a process. Some insurances will cover it. I don't know what this would be out of pocket, but I know it's not cheap. But if you need a communication device, usually insurances, typically, we can justify it for you. Another great thing that is now it's out there everywhere. IKEA has them. You can get them on Amazon. This is a high-low desk. So there are ones that are manual where you can have somebody crank it to the adjusted height that you want. But the powered ones are great because all you have to do is press an up or down button and the table will go up and down. So if you're in a manual chair and then you want to get in your power chair, or vice versa, or for those that maybe want to do some standing, you can make it a standing desk. It's great. Some of them you can preset the heights that you want. So all you have to do is press it once and then it goes to that height and you're good. But it's nice that you can get close to things. You're not far away. Your legs are not like scraping the top of a table. But yeah, these are great. And they come in different widths and different lengths. So depending on what you're using it for, there's all different kinds.
So we're going to jump back to some art materials and specific like adaptations of those. Just starting out like some general materials, drawing supplies, painting supplies, clay, you know, and then I kind of have listed like, you know, whether it's more fine motor or whether it's more gross motor, visual, tactile. You know, it's all about kind of finding a right fit for you, in addition to the adaptive materials. And, you know, another consideration that I always think for folks, especially at home, is how clean it is or like how messy. You know, if it's something that you can do independently or if you're going to need help cleaning it up or it's going to take hours to clean up, like we want, you know, obviously it to be a good fit for your creative process, but also realistically and logistically, that it matches kind of what you're looking for. So drawing, painting, both really easily adaptable. You know, some are messier, but there are like very low mess options. The same thing goes for clay. There's a little bit of a steeper learning curve sometimes, but there are options like Model Magic, which is very, very soft and not messy at all. There's ceramic clay, which can be a little bit harder. What was I going to say? Oh, but is much messier. um, but they're really great for low vision and like, you know, folks that really are, you know, trying to engage in something much more tactile. What else? We have like mosaic materials, other textiles, yarn, felt, macrame. We have paper, and we do a lot of like 3D crafts here as well. These are all things that are kind of, I think, a little bit can be out of the norm, but can be really accessible for some folks. Mosaics can be much more abstract. They can get messy, but they're generally like very structured. You know, and you can do them in all different ways using stuff at home. You know, textile stuff is very fine motor and very tactile, but it's very low mess. Not always the most easily adaptable, but we've done things like felt collages, which is a lot more adaptable than like maybe crocheting or knitting. We do paper stuff, collage, origami, same thing, pretty fine motor heavy, and precision can be an issue, but otherwise generally pretty clean and structured. And like I said, we do a lot of like, you know, painting of wooden birdhouses or ceramic flower pots, things like that, that can be a little bit easier and a little bit less messy, little very structured and adaptable to kind of what you're working on. These are some of like very specific adaptive devices about art. So one is an adaptive ceramic wheel. They have tabletop wheels as well. They have like a wide access to them. They're very wide, so you can fit powered wheelchairs into them. They raise and lower and adapt to whatever height is best for you. This is the ceramic wheel or the adaptive wheel. They have a foot pedal that can be doubled as a hand pedal, so it can be raised up to the side, and a knob can be attached to it so that you're controlling the speed of the wheel with your hand instead of your foot. And they actually have like arm supports on the side as well, that also can be doubled for like just tabletop space that's a little bit closer to your body. A tabletop wheel is another option, kind of not as many bells and whistles as the adaptive wheel, but a little bit more portable probably, if you have your own setup at home. I don't have a link for these because they are quite expensive. I am working on building a list of like community resources and seeing if there's anywhere in the community that has access to these things. And that is something that I can certainly share down the line, but just so that, you know, if this is something you're interested in, like you have a starting point of, what to ask for and what to look for when looking for adaptive art centers. Another one is adaptive photography. They have a lot of different arms, tripods, stabilizers, and like attachments that can be attached to wheelchairs. They have like body equipment that you can wear, as well as like bite and tongue switches. So this link at the bottom is a link that kind of gives you a breakdown and some examples of those equipment pieces. Photography, like can be great with photo editing, can be like a really fun creative process in Photoshop as well as Procreate. Another option that came up was drones, and doing photography with drones can be kind of cool. And I know there's a lot of like adaptive devices that relate to that as well. Then there's adaptive crochet. This is super DIY. This photo is an adaptive crochet hook that somebody I found on Instagram. Her name is Helen Zhao. I don't want to butcher her name, but it's on the screen. She has an Instagram and a YouTube channel. She crochets one-handed. So she created this device. I have recreated it myself using things that I already had at the studio. So for me, it was very no cost, but you could do these things at really low cost as well. There is a very steep learning curve to adapting crochet, but it's a really cool process, and she has a lot of great like videos and tutorials online.
The other thing, like we had a patient who had a hemi arm that was not necessarily super functional. So we put a U-cuff on her, put the crocheting thing so that it was just rested where her arm naturally just lays. And we were able to like use her good arm and just have that be the stationary too. So that some people, if they don't want to necessarily adapt it, they want to use their other arm, but it's maybe just not functional enough. That's something you can use your other arm maybe as a stationary and kind of have it gripped in there. And then you're just using your good hand to crochet and do those skills.
Yeah, I think generally like with all of this stuff, like it is not a one size fits all, and there are a million different ways to make it work. It's just kind of putting in the time and the energy to figure it out. Lastly, this is Procreate, and more generally digital art. But Procreate is a digital art app that's really great for accessible art making. It's no mess. It's great for people with limited range of motion, though there is a bit of a learning curve. But there are a lot of free tutorials online, and they do have a lot of great accessibility settings. We have a quad amputee that does a lot of digital art making.
Without her
prosthesis, yeah. So it's great for that one-handed use or like limited kind of fine motor even. So it's really versatile, a lot of different brushes, layering, special effects that can mimic other forms of art. And it was designed specifically for Apple products, so it does work best on an iPad with an Apple Pencil, but it can be used elsewhere. And again, the accessibility settings are great, particularly with the iPads, because Apple already has really good accessibility like programming. So they pair together really well. And it's a really fun one to explore. Lastly, I just wanted to kind of share that the biggest thing is what am I trying to say? It's late in the day. The biggest thing is kind of adapting like your mindset to the materials that you have and the things that you want to create. All day long, I just take what we have and make it work. I've taken like paintbrushes and taken the metal tip and bent it sideways so that somebody that uses their prosthesis could paint without having to like bring their shoulder all the way up to their ear to like bring their prosthesis down. So really just like taking things and thinking outside of the box can be really fun, and I think is just really important when adapting your creative process. Final considerations, chairs that raise and lower or offer additional lumbar or arm support. This is a good one, especially again, like for pain and sitting in a position for a long period of time. It's just important to have good supports. Again, tape is something that we use for everything and anything, just to kind of make our own DIY art materials and art setups. Another one is 3D printing. I shared this example earlier of I had our 3D printing team print an ashtray as a shallow water bowl that has little divots in the side that your paintbrush can rest on, so that folks with limited like dexterity were able to clean their brushes really easily and make sure that they didn't like roll away from them on the lip of whatever cup they would have used otherwise. So 3D printing can be a cool way to adapt some stuff and to like repurpose almost some stuff. Other considerations, cost of materials and community resources. Things can be expensive. So again, I recommend kind of adapting what you have first. I also think that trying things out in the community, if possible, is a great way to see if you like something and kind of envision how you might engage with that process or that material before going all in on it, investing, time and money on something that might not be a good fit. Yeah, I think that is kind of all we had. I am happy to answer like general or very specific questions. Again, we take things case by case. So yeah, I'll open it back up.
Thank you, Alex and Colleen. I know it feels like much later than it is. It feels like
The
it
sun is
must-
down and my brain is
I'm
all
like,
down.
is it not 8 o'clock? Thank you again so much for sharing all that great information. I'll open it up if anyone has any questions they want to ask about, maybe like I asked them in the earlier session, like, oh, people have asked me about accessible beading. Like, do you have any ideas for that? If you have any issues that have been plaguing you in your practice or anything like that, feel free to ask any questions either in the chat or you can unmute yourself. I will, as you're pondering your questions, I will pop a couple more links in the chat for you. So I'm sharing a link to the PA Tech Accelerator website in general. That's where a recording of this with an ASL interpreter picture in picture will go once it's edited. And there are recordings of all the past. There are like 16 other webinars that we've done so far. And we have one more after this one in December, on December 11th, about assistive tech for rec and leisure with some rec therapists from English. I also put a link to the state AT-ACT program. So, here at TechOwl, we represent the state assistive technology program for Pennsylvania. But if you don't live in Pennsylvania, you might be interested in connecting with your state's assistive technology program. I'd actually love to hear maybe who's in the room. What states are you? Are you all from Pennsylvania? Are you from other states? Feel free to pop in the chat where you're from. And I also put a link, Tennessee, cool. I put a link to a feedback survey if you have a moment to fill that out. The link is there. Another Pennsylvania, great. So in Pennsylvania, we represent the Assistive Technology Act program. We do have some kind of accessible adaptive art things in our lending library. We have like a water painting tool that's pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen that, Alex and Colleen. We have guided hands, which is like an art making. You could use it for art making. Lots of cool things that you can borrow. Anyone in Pennsylvania can borrow from our library. I will put that link in the chat as well in case you are not familiar with it. That is the place where you can borrow all kinds of tools. If there is an adaptive art tool, and this goes for you too, Alex and Colleen, that we don't have in our lending library that you think we should have in our lending library that you'd be interested in, like being able to trial with patients, or if anyone else has any suggestions, there's a button on that website to request specific devices to be added to our library. And we really do like seek out what we want to have, the things that people want. Otherwise, we don't want to just like put random things in our lending library that nobody wants. So we really want to know what people want. So please use that button to suggest items that maybe we can add to the lending library. And not just, obviously I want to make sure there's lots of cool adaptive art stuff in there, but that goes for any kinds of adaptive tools, assistive technology. So yeah, unless does anyone have any questions before we wrap up?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
So I'm working with someone who is she'll make some like advocacy presentations, and we're working on making a PowerPoint of one of her presentations. And she can use the like computer and keyboard and mouse and everything. It is a little challenging sometimes using the mouse. Like in PowerPoint, it has to be like very precise. Like if she's gonna resize a text box, she has to hover the mouse just so over the edge of the box, and it's very easy to lose the cursor she needs to resize. Or like if she clicks when she has the right cursor, if it moves slightly, then she loses kind of what she's doing. So I was wondering if something like the Magic Trackpad is like a little easier as far as like the moving and clicking. Like I feel like getting the mouse in a very precise spot and then clicking it without having it move out of place has been a challenge. So I wonder if you have experience with the Magic Trackpad and if
We
it's kind of like that.
I've never used it for like a text box, trying to like drag it to make it bigger. But it's not, it's your speed that's controlling it. So like where a mouse, like it's kind of on a ball and it's like it can go kind of like all over. It's your hand. So like if you're clicking and then dragging, it's however your movement of your arm is how fast it's gonna go. So you don't necessarily lose it, because even if let's say like you're dragging it and you get to here and you unclick it, and then you go back, your hand can be anywhere on the mouse track. It still stays in that spot. So you can like rest it and then kind of go back and then click and then drag. You could be fast, you could be slow. It's to what your ability is. So a lot of our tetraplegics use it in like U cuffs, and they're zipping around. Like these young people, they beat me. I'm like, oh, I can't even find the mouse. I'm like, and you can change like the color of the mouse so that like if sometimes like your dot on it is different, so you can change it and brighten it and make it bigger, smaller, so that it's easy to find too. And then where you're hovering to click on stuff, like it's like a dot, but then there's like a circle around it, and it makes it a little bit bigger to where you can click, so you don't have to be so precise on clicking certain things. We stumbled upon this because one of our patients was very limited with his range of motion with his arm, and he can now use his iPad and his cell phone with not his cell phone, his iPad with no problem. So it might be a little bit easier than a trackball or a regular mouse to kind of like navigate, because I feel like you can get wild and crazy with the balls. They just kind of like a trackball, you can't really like slow down that. If you're like going like this, it's like off up on the page or whatever. But I feel like the trackpad is a little bit easier. Like
Okay.
if you have a laptop that has that little mouse pad on it, you might be able to trial that with like a stylus or their finger, and see how they do with it. If they're
Does it work similar to the trackpad on a laptop?
It does. It's just a little bit, I feel like it's bigger than laptops. And I just feel like I feel like you don't, because it's so small, you sometimes have to go like I'm able to body with my hand, so I'm able to like just like whatever and do. I feel like it's bigger, so you don't have to readjust for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to try something like that and see how if that's easy for them. Because I think though that with that trackpad on a laptop though, I think you have the buttons below it, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So you still have to click them, whereas this you just have to press down on the trackpad.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that sounds
On it.
interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like our patients that are tetras that maybe only have tenodesis available, they're zipping through it with no issues.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that answers it.
Yeah.
I'm now realizing I don't know if we have that in the lending library, and I'm wondering.
Honestly, I didn't even know Apple made it. I just was like
Okay.
trying to figure out like there's
Yeah.
gotta be and out there. And their last update was 2018.
Mm.
But they sell it. It's still on their website. They're selling them.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Maybe it's something we need to add to the learning library.
Yeah.
I'll also take an opportunity if I feel like I'm always learning so much from other people and like other people that are part of this conversation. So just wanted to give an opportunity if anyone else has like a favorite adaptive art tool or cool thing that they have discovered that other people might be interested in, feel free to pop that in the chat if you want to share with other people something that you think is cool, or a social media account of like a cool, like the one you mentioned, Alex, or
Other
any.
things that we have tried, sorry to cut you off,
Yeah, no, go for it.
like, because we're at an outpatient. Sometimes I'll just make like like things for splinting material. Like I've done like it's like two circles connected together with a little one. And if they don't do well with a U cuff, it's like two fingers hooked. And then it's kind of like, can I have your pen?
Yeah.
Kind of like angled in this, and then they can do it a little bit better that way. I just make things up. Like I've done it for mascara, like if you're making mascara, and then they can kind of, our Tetris can do that, or like lipstick. I mean, we'll find a way and make it work for them. And not everything works the same for everybody. Even if you're the same diagnosis, same level, you always present a little bit different. So we're tweaking things left and right, and just trying to be creative. And then somebody's like, well, turn it this way, and then it's like game over. Oh yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. It's so nice to have an opportunity to like problem solve like that. I feel like I interact with a lot of people who aren't necessarily like in rehab, aren't necessarily like seeing clinicians or, regularly, and like don't have as much opportunity to like problem solve and be creative with someone. So it's so nice that folks have the opportunity to do that with you and can bring that home with them into their life. And it's just, I feel like it's so powerful to have someone just like problem solving with you to figure things out like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can look online, or that they're $1 million, and you're just like, I really don't want to spend that much money on
Yeah.
something where I could, so if you can have somebody who's even like handy in your house that can build it, or just like, well, we said instead of buying Coban, if you're just like building up a pencil or a pen or whatever, you can literally just get a couple rubber bands, and build it up that way. Then you have that like rubbery tactile,
Yeah,
and it works just as well.
for sure. Or yeah, I mean, instead of Dyson, I sometimes recommend shelf liner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Dyson still is like a special material that like shelf liner doesn't replicate, but sometimes we can find things that work. Awesome. Well, if there are no other questions, we will say farewell for now, and we'll see you on December 11th. I popped the link in the chat. Oh, Meredith, did you have something before?
Sorry, I wanted to ask, I'm teaching, so I teach elementary art education. I'll turn my camera on, sorry. And hi, everybody. I'm in my classroom right now, and I teach a group of 6 children who are severely autistic. All of the children are non-speaking, and they use assistive technology to communicate. And thank you so much for sharing all the tools. Like, I'm definitely going to look into those tools. I was just wondering if you had any like projects, or would you recommend? This is my second year teaching them. I'm at Conshohocken Elementary in Conshohocken. So yeah, I just wanted to see if you had any recommendations for how to structure their studio time. I'm keeping it very open-ended right now, where I have like stations set up, and they explore a different station and they hop to a new one. But yeah, if you had any advice or anything you wanted to share with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of different projects. Again, like I feel like you probably would be able to agree that you like encounter this, but like as after working with a patient like once, I'm like, okay, I know like the amount of structure that you need. Like, you know what I mean? Like you tend to like, the more you work with people and the more you work with like a given population, like you can kind of anticipate like what's going to be better and what's going to kind of fall apart or like be too much. So like I feel like something I've learned is adding structure to two things that maybe aren't structured. by like adding steps to it or like not bringing out a material right away. You know, like showing examples first, letting people get into that. And then when everybody's done with that, like, okay, now we're going to bring out the supplies. Now gather your supplies, whatever. And like kind of really implementing like a lot of steps or like to try not to like overwhelm almost. I find a lot of difficulty with that, especially at, like the main hospital. Like if somebody wants to do like mosaics, like we have boxes, like many boxes of like mosaic supplies. I'm like, what color do you want? What shape? What size? Like whatever. I like go to bring them all out, and then I'm like, there are 5 boxes on the table. Like this is too overwhelming, you know? So like starting with one, and then like, you know, noticing that somebody's going for the red ones. Okay, I'm going to show you this other box. Like really kind of like building in that structure. As far as like projects go, um, you know, we'll do things like simple things like tape paintings where like we'll put tape in like a geometric spot on canvases. And then like you can paint them in all different colors. You can like blend the colors, you can do whatever, and then it dries, you take it off. So like simple, like very abstract stuff. Collage and like again like felt collage can be really fun because it's tactile and like um you know you can really build it's simple too, like it's not like overwhelming with like images, it's more focused on shape and color. So even just like breaking down like some of the elements of like more complex things into something that's simpler. Yeah, I don't know. Like I could talk about different projects all day. So if you want, I'm happy to.
Maybe like
Yeah.
depending on your students, you know, how they learn. Like some people are very abstract and they can do well with abstract, and others need like, you know, break down step by step. Like you give me a blank canvas, I'm like, I have no idea. And you know, because our patients, you know, they are like some are really good and they can just go to town and do their own thing, and the other ones are just sitting there staring at each other. So I feel like if you have a mix of them, then you can have like one section being very structured, and the other one, if they want to explore and kind of create on their own, having that, and they can kind of go to their own section. That could also help too, versus, you know, if they're like, I don't like to follow the steps, I want to do my own thing and be creative. That can help as well.
Or like materials that like they can get more creative with. Like you know, like watercolor is a good example where like you can get kind of like crazy and messy with watercolor. But it's otherwise like pretty straightforward and like you can follow that step by step. Another one is like tissue paper, like things like that where people tend to approach it the same of like, oh, I'm going to lay this flat and I'm going to layer it. And then you have somebody that like bunches it up and glues it that way and makes it 3-dimensional. And you're like, oh, okay, like you you took it and ran with it, you know? So like stuff like that, like I feel like where you get a little bit of the best of both worlds and like people can kind of push their creativity if that's what they're into. But yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question.
Thanks. Now I want to go play with tissue paper. I put a link to an adaptive art list on our website, as well as a link that Meredith, if you or anyone on the call is interested in connecting with a Tech Owl staff member, Pennsylvania specific, Tennessee, you might have to connect with your own state, but to set up an appointment with a AT specialist. Everyone, if you're in the area, can come visit our community space on Temple's campus, where we have some adaptive art stuff and other fun 3D printed tools and things like that. So I will make sure to also send all this information out, including the slides to everyone who was here today. So thank you again to Alex and Colleen, and we will see you on December 11th, everyone. Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.